Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Pizzino, and along with Rebecca Helton, we're going to take you on a brief tour of Acumatica. I'll start off with about a 10-minute overview of Acumatica to give you a little bit more familiarity with who they are, and then Rebecca will follow with the demo. As we go along today, if you have any questions, there is a question and answer box. You'll see that on your panel Q&A. Please enter in any questions that you might have as we go forward, and we'll do our very best to answer all of those before we end the meeting. And then, of course, we'll follow up with a brief wrap-up, and let's get started. In an analog business, you usually see a lot of spreadsheets and combining of data from different sources. A digital business utilizes modern technology, storing all of that operational data in a common database and a single source of truth. But business or digital transformation, that is more than just modern technology. You must also update your processes. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused all of us to change the way that we work. One big change is the use of teleworking or telecommuting. Teleworking or telecommuting will likely become part of the so-called new normal even after this pandemic ends. Businesses operating Acumatica in the cloud are resilient businesses. Those resilient businesses were best prepared to quickly and seamlessly pivot their businesses to that remote working scenario. And I've just highlighted one of the comments, but these are some comments from some users of Acumatica who were able to do just that, and that was easily transform their businesses to the cloud. At the core of Acumatica and really any ERP system is the financials. And we'll take a look at some of that functionality today. Other modules that are core to Acumatica are project accounting, inventory management, customer management, which is our CRM system. And our CRM system actually sits in the same database as the rest of our applications. And this eliminates the need to synchronize your ERP system with a separate ERP or CRM system. And then finally, payroll, which is our newest module released earlier this year. Acumatica in recent years has begun packaging their software in what we call editions, and you see those in front of you now. We'll touch on some of the distribution components and manufacturing components towards the end of the presentation. You see the other ones that we do also represent, and one of them is the construction edition, and we do have a webinar on that tomorrow if you want to tune in on that. We also have a commerce edition for those who are selling their product via the web, and a very robust field service edition. Now, each one of these editions doesn't limit you. You can add components from any of the other editions to complete a solution for you. As a matter of fact, we have one client who is a manufacturer. They distribute their product, and they also have a very active e-commerce presence. So what makes Acumatica and unique? You see here what we call a future-proof platform. In the center of that platform, that's the pillar. So that's the framework of which Acumatica has been built. We call it our XRP platform. And then on top of that platform, you see the different modules and the industry editions. One of the really unique things about Acumatica is that not only do you get the software and the applications that are on that top level, you also get the platform, which means that you can create and customize the system to meet your unique needs, and many businesses have done that. And then, of course, supporting all of that is the database, our cloud partners, and then the development tools. And you'll notice that Acumatica doesn't have a proprietary development tool. They use very common, very well-known development tools to build Acumatica, and you can do the same. That centerpiece also contains all the APIs and the open architecture that Acumatica has. You can see here a listing of some very widely used, very common cloud-based applications that are all integrated into Acumatica. Security is often a concern when you're looking at a cloud-based application. All Acumatica public cloud customers are deployed in the Amazon Web Services data center, which is, of course, a very robust data center. Amazon builds their own website and their operations off in their own data center. Acumatica is unique in that it has multiple deployment options. You can either use the Acumatica public cloud, which we just referenced, but you can also, if your business requires it or if you're restricted by some regulatory concerns, you can also deploy Acumatica in your own private cloud on your own server in your own data center. And of course, you have the flexibility to move from one deployment option to another should your needs change. And that does not require a complete re-implementation of your system. It really requires just a snapshot of your database dropped in on your new server and away you go. And what you get with either one of those options is a very robust web component. And I think Rebecca will show you something off of that today. But anything that you can do on that desktop, you can do on a handheld device, whether it be an iPad or a smartphone. One of the other unique things about Acumatica is their licensing model. If you've purchased software before, if you've been part of an implementation, you know that typically licenses are sold by user, whether they be concurrent licenses or named user licenses. And those licenses are very, very expensive. And what that typically does is it prohibits companies from actually giving access to their entire organization, because their usage of those modules is probably, or those licenses is probably going to be very limited. What Acumatica has done is that they've said, let's do away with licenses. Let's give everybody access that needs it, however restricted it might be, so that the warehouse employee that might just need to use it at the end of the day can access it just the same as a very heavy user like someone in the finance department could also use it. This is what we call a consumption-based licensing model. And so what do industry analysts and customers think of Acumatica? As you can see here, Nucleus Research has named Acumatica as the highest and greater in usability. And then also you can see on the right-hand side, this is a customer picture of how Software Reviews ranks Acumatica as a champion in user satisfaction. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca Helton to walk you through some of Acumatica. So Rebecca, take it away.
All right, thanks, John. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'll give you all a kind of tour around the world of Acumatica today. I'm going to focus most of our attention today on just sort of highlighting some of the features and capabilities and abilities that Acumatica has that makes it stand apart from some of the other ERP systems you may have seen or may be working with now. One of the centerpieces of Acumatica is its dashboard and its dashboard widget capability. And that is what we're looking at now. I'm going to be using a couple of different sample companies today. This one is a company that's primarily a distribution company. And I'm going to walk you through some of the capabilities that the finance areas have and the operational areas have, and highlight how the dashboards and the dashboard widgets can help you manage your business and help you easily get to the information that is most important to you without being cluttered up with just a bunch of other data that's maybe less important. So the example that we're looking at here is a fantastic dashboard that Acumatica has put together called a customer view. And so what we're looking at here in this system is kind of a high-level view of different pieces of information in the system that are related to customers. So we can see that we have 4 outstanding orders to ship. We can see our sales order trend on a month-by-month basis, kind of an overview of what items are most highly sold, recent activities that are communications with those customers, and some customer contact information. I don't have to walk you through all of everything here, but you can see that there's a lot of different customer-centric information that's pulled from various areas of the system. I guess a couple of other items I'll point out is that there are open opportunities here. These are from the CRM portion of the system. So these are great little metrics, but as I always like to say, they're not just pretty pictures, they're also highly, highly usable. So if I want to take a look at what are those 4 orders to ship, what is it that's outstanding there that is set to go out the door, I can click on that dashboard widget and it shows me the information behind the scenes so that I can see what are those 4 orders, what customers are they for, and what's going on with those. And so we can see there that there are these 4 different outstanding sales orders that have not shipped yet. And we see a few different things here. So we see a high-level view of the order information itself, the order number, the customer, etc. But we can see a few other things. One is that some of these have sort of this red highlight information here. And what that indicates is that those orders were supposed to have shipped already. It's the 28th of April, and they have not shipped yet. One in particular is way, way past due, so we should probably take care of that one. But some of the other ones we may want to take a look at as well. This one is okay. It's not set to ship for another couple of days or so. So this highlighting of cells in this type of screen is one of the other features that Acumatica offers that sort of makes it easier to use the system and easier to focus in on the information that's important to you. So we could go to another screen and see all the outstanding orders or even all the orders that have processed forever within the system, but this one allows us to focus in on just the ones that we really care about most and maybe do something about these here that are past due. Another thing I want to point out to you here within this screen is this feature called a side panel. And this is another kind of little technical thing. There are lots of cool little, you could call them bells and whistles with Acumatica, but they are more than bells and whistles. They're things that make the system really, really work for you. So this side panel capability is the ability to have within a grid of information. In this case, it's a list of sales orders. We can click on any one of them. And if we want to drill down into the sales orders and see some of the information about it without actually opening up another screen or opening up another window, a side panel will let us do that. And I'll be showing you a couple of other examples of side panels during our presentation today. So if we want to look at any one of these sales orders, one thing we could do is click on the hyperlink there so that the window pops up. This is an example of a sales order window. We can see all the information. As you can see, there's a lot of it for that sales order. Or just clicking on having the side panel open and close, then we can just quickly take a peek at what's going on with that sales order. The other thing I noticed here on this particular sales order is that there is a note attached to that sales order. So this little button right here that is highlighted in yellow shows us that a note has been attached to this sales order. And this particular note, if I click on it, tells us to cancel the order if it has not been shipped by the 15th of April. So this is another capability that Acumatica has throughout the system, is the ability to attach notes at practically to any record or to any detail line of any record within the system. And with that, you can record all kinds of information. We've had lots of requests in the past, working over the years with different customers, of the ability to attach notes to things so that you can just add a little bit of extra information so that other users within the organization can see it. So being able to attach a note to a sales order, note to a customer, note to an item, note to an AP bill, all of these different things will let you kind of communicate more effectively with folks throughout your organization so that everybody inside the organization has full access to the information that they need to be able to perform their functions. I'm going to show you another example of lists of information within Acumatica and also side panels. So if I navigate over here to the invoices and memos portion of the program, this is within receivables. This is every single invoice that has ever been processed through the system within their sample company. And you will see here that we also have this side panel tool. This does not exist in every screen. You actually have the ability to configure the side panels that you would like to see that help you drill into the information that's relevant to what you see in the grid. So side panels are definable by you, and that's reflective of a lot of different features and different things and different screens within Acumatica. It's tremendously flexible. So you are able to tailor the screens and grids and features to work the way you want them to work and look the way you want them to look. So looking at this list of invoices and memos, as I said, this is a list of every single invoice that's ever been processed within the company. If I scroll all the way back to older dates, you can see that all of these invoices have been closed and paid, but they are still accessible forever within the system. So information does not go away. It gets retained so that you can inquire upon it for as long as you need to. So looking at some of the newer invoices, again, this example of a side panel, if I click on this portion of the side panel, and by the way, I can drag this out to see a little bit more. I'm not stuck with just having it, you know, be a small little rectangle over there. I can make this, expand this out so I can see more of the screen. And in fact, I can expand it fully so I can see the whole entire thing if I need to. So I can click back and forth between seeing individual items and drilling down on the details. I also, on this particular side panel, have a couple of different links. So this is another thing you can do with Acumatica. You're not stuck with just, can I see the details of that transaction? But maybe I want to see the customer associated with that transaction. And I'll show you another practical way here in just a second that might be useful. So I'm going to collapse that back down here for a second and focus back here on the grid. And you'll see here that, as I mentioned, we have every invoice that's ever been processed here. Maybe I want to click and see just the ones that are open. So if something's been fully paid, I don't really care to see it. So all grids within Acumatica, these are called generic inquiries, and they are tailorable. They're customizable and tailorable, so you can decide what you want to see and how you want to see it. So clearing off all of those statuses, if I just want to see all of the invoices that are open, I can do that. And that immediately filters my list to just the open invoices. I could also, for example, just see all of the invoices for a particular customer or all of the invoices that were for a particular dollar amount. I also have the ability to sort. Look at my oldest ones or look at my newest ones, and you can do all of these things in combination. Now we're doing this within the context of a list of invoices within the receivables module, but this is available all throughout the system wherever you have a system of, or ever have a list of records. Again, this generic inquiry capability is tremendously powerful for being able to look at just the information that you need to look at to perform the important functions within your organization. So another example of something that we can do with these generic inquiries is do some saved filters. And I have done just that with this collections tab here. So you see I have several different tabs across the top. I have all records. I have those sorted by due date. And I have ones that I just want to drill in on for collections purposes. And I went ahead earlier on and added a filter here and saved this filter. And this filter says to show me anything where the due date is more than 120 days away from today. And so this shows me all of my old items that I may want to take action and do some collections activity on. So looking at these, this is where I may want to be able to click through and take a look at the specific customer record that's associated with each one of these. And dragging that out, I can see all kinds of activity related to the customer. I can go ahead and look at all of their outstanding items directly from this screen. So it's very accessible, very easy, very quick to get to all of the information without doing a lot of clicking around, opening up new icons or opening up new windows or new menu options. Everything is very, very accessible. Wanted to show you one more kind of bell or a whistle, if you will, and that's related to, I'm using the accounts payable function as a way to demonstrate that. So here we have an accounts payable bill. This one has been open, and this particular one has an attachment to, and so I can click on that here, or I can drill down into the bill itself. So I mentioned a bit ago that lots of people like to be able to enter notes about transactions or notes about records within the system. You also have the ability in virtually any screen or any record in Acumatica to attach a file. I'm using accounts payable as an example because it's quite often that folks want to be able to have a copy of the invoice and possibly even a copy of the purchase order embedded within the accounting transaction that's in the system. So if I click on that files link there, you can see that I have a copy of the purchase order that was given to the vendor. And so when then the bill comes in, I can have that purchase order attached to that AP record. So that could also be a copy of the invoice. It could be a copy of an approval, virtually anything that's relevant to that particular record within that AP bill. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit over to general ledger, talk a little bit about finance information, and just to set the stage a little bit, not to get too technical on you all, but I'm going to talk a little bit about a chart of accounts and show you and give you an idea about account structure and also corporate structure and how that can feed into financial statements. There's an extremely powerful financial reporter that's built into Acumatica that can deliver the up-to-date financial information that's collected in the system. So we have here our chart of accounts, and just for setting the stage here just a little bit, in this particular company, we also have a sub-account list that is subdivided, and so that we can slice and dice our data by department and then perhaps also by channel of goods and services that are sold within the organization. Next, I'm going to draw your attention up here to this tree view of the organization. And this is another element of Acumatica for anybody who has multiple locations or companies within companies or divisions within companies. This is what's referred to as branches within Acumatica. So what we're looking at here is 3 different companies that all roll up to the parent company. And then within those 3 different companies, we have 2 branches within the products company and 2 branches within the services company. So all of these can come into play in financial reporting, and I'll give you a taste of just one type of financial statement that we can run within Acumatica. I'm going to run it backdated because I have a little bit of old data here. So if I run this report as of a quarter late last year, you can see that we have a comparative P&L that shows quarterly amounts. And this is rather high level statement, but you can see we've got revenue, COGS, and operating expenses, and so forth down the line. Now, you'll notice that this report, like many reports in Acumatica, has a number of hyperlinks within it. So if we look at this, if we look at any one of these numbers here, you notice that if I hover my mouse over that, we can click on it. So, and in doing that, I can see the detail behind that line item on the financial statement. And if I need to see even further, I can click on any account or sub-account and see the activity that's associated with that, and that gave us that number. That one didn't have any transaction detail behind it for that time frame, so I didn't pick a very good one there, but we'll just give another one a try. So I'm going to click on this one here. So we've got our COGS account for the year or for the quarter, and here's all the individual transactions that led to that number. And notice here that you can also use sorts and filters to look at just individual transactions or drill down on just the information that you care about. So tremendously flexible, tremendously accessible information that we have in Acumatica. So one other thing I'd like to show you here is that I was talking a bit ago about how we have these branches and how we have these companies within companies. So with that, this particular financial statement is set up to be able to run at the corporate level as a whole, or if we needed to, we can drill down to any one of these nodes within the tree to quickly see what is the position of any one of those subcomponents of the overall company. So clicking on the product company, if we look here, we'll see that our 2009 sales revenue is 66.4 million, but looking at the product company, that product company's portion of that is 46 million, while the rest is in the services company. And then drilling further down, if you want to see information at a little bit more detailed level, you can drill within the branches of either one of those companies. So if you do have more complex corporate structures, or even if you just have a couple of different elements within the overall company and want to be able to quickly slice and dice any one of those elements, it's very easy to do that within Acumatica. This is just a one-time setup that's relatively easy of these financial statements, so that you can then quickly report at any level or any layer of your organization. I'm going to go back to my dashboard view again for just a minute and also talk a little bit more about accounting features. I promise we'll move off accounting here in a second, but I just wanted to show you a couple of other examples of a dashboard. You'll notice here that the Acumatica sample company includes a number of different dashboards that are focused on functional area. And all of these that we see here are simply examples of dashboards that they have established in this sample company. We can roll them out for you if there are any things here that work great for you, if you like them just as is. But note that anybody who has Acumatica deployed can define and establish their own dashboards that are specific to their particular operational needs, their particular reporting needs. So depending on your role within the company and depending on your company and how you need to slice and dice data and how you need to see things, what you need to have served up front and center for you, you may have different information within this system. And one final note about these dashboards, for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm clicking on this dashboards link here and navigating to any one of the dashboards that we see over here. But what is most common for people who are using the system day to day is that you have a dashboard that is assigned to you and that reflects your role within the organization, so that when you first log into Acumatica, you see the information on that dashboard and, if necessary, can act upon the information that's presented to you. It helps you become more efficient and more effective and focused and manage the information that is most important without having to, go and find it. I'm going to switch gears just a little bit and over to the operations side, and I'm actually going to look into what's technically a different company. This is looks very similar to the one we were just looking at, but it's a little bit of a different database. This is a manufacturing company, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the distribution and touch on the manufacturing features that Acumatica has. As John mentioned in his presentation, Acumatica comes in a number of different suites. Excuse me, a number of different suites, a number of different editions that are geared specifically for different industries. So just as a side note, Acumatica is sort of a generic ERP. It has not been developed for any particular industry or any particular vertical market. It can be adapted to a broad range of industries and applications. So if you just need financials, then it's perfect for you. But also they do have this offering of the different editions, so that some of the different functionalities are sort of pre-packaged for you and offer the elements that you might need depending on exactly what type of company you have in play. So distribution and manufacturing is mostly what we're looking at today, but as John mentioned, we also have a session tomorrow on construction, and there's also field service, and there are literally hundreds of different independent software vendors that offer other industry-specific or functionality-specific software that integrates with Acumatica. So much of it within the Acumatica platform. Okay, so we're going to take a look at now some of the distribution and manufacturing capabilities, and we're going to talk about sales orders here for just a second. I'm going to go ahead and just pop in here a very quick sales order for a product so you can see how the sales order capability can be managed and how you can turn sales orders over to production orders within the manufacturing system. So I am going to go ahead and enter a sales order for this customer for one of the products that we make, a Keurig. Everybody likes coffee, I know I do. And so I'm just going to go ahead and enter the sales order and then we can take a look quickly at how this might flow over to a production area. So again, one of the things you'll notice with Acumatica is many of the screens look similar. So you have a very common look and feel throughout the different areas of the program. So that makes adoption easier, training easier. People don't have to, if you're doing receivables and you're doing sales orders and you're doing production, you don't have to relearn everything from screen to screen to screen. They have set up everything in a standard manner so that it's consistent and easy to learn. So popping in here and entering a sales order. This particular item that that we are popping in here on the sales order is an item that is manufactured. We can see down here within the system that we don't have any on hand or available. This is another thing that I could spend hours on this. We have great visibility within the system for inventory availability. This particular one is made, so we don't really need to see a whole lot about it. But if we were entering a distribution type item, we may want to see a lot of detail about whether you have some of that coming in on purchase order, do you have it at different locations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So multiple warehouse support, multiple location support within warehouses. So this particular item is produced, and I have it such that this sales order is marked so that we are going to make a production order out of it. So right here from the sales order screen, I'm going to go ahead and hit this and create a production order out of this sales order. And in hitting this action menu, I'll just point out that one of the other fantastic things about Acumatica is that they have made it very intuitive to be able to figure out what's next or what could be next within any given type of transaction. So clicking on the actions menu, you can see all the possible things that could be done with a sales order. Depending on what's available to be done at this time, different items will be highlighted. If there are items that are dimmed out, it means that they're either not available at this time or they are not available to me because they're locked down by security perhaps. So just that little note about that. So I'm going to go ahead and create a production order for this Keurig. So for companies that do make to order type manufacturing, this feature and this capability is extremely useful. I know that not all companies operate that way, and I'll talk about the other ways that you can manage this. But in this particular case, I have made a production order specifically for this sales order. And by doing that, I now have a bi-directional link between my sales order to the customer and the production order that exists over in the manufacturing area. So I'm just going to click on that hyperlink there. I'm not going to walk you through the manufacturing of this item because that's pretty boring. If you do want to see that later, we can set up another demo for you specifically for you. But this is the production order that's now going to dictate the manufacturing of this particular set Keurig order for this customer. If we switch over to our manufacturing area, pardon me just a moment. Needed one more sip of water, sorry about that. We can, you can see that there are several different things within operations that can help us with production management. And also, Acumatica includes the ability to run and analyze MRP. So for those companies that are doing manufacturing and need to be able to do full-on material requirements planning, Acumatica Manufacturing fully supports that and makes all of the steps that you need to take with respect to manufacturing very easy to use. So I'm just going to click in here for just a second at a couple of different screens, and then we'll probably wrap up and go back to something else. So for companies that are manufacturers, there are a couple of different screens that can be used to help automate the actions that are required within MRP. So running an MRP is something that can be done on a schedule within the system. Talking about the automation features of Acumatica is a whole different topic we could probably spend an entire webinar on, but just know that one of the things that you can do is a lot of different functions within Acumatica can be set to run on a schedule, and MRP is one of those. So you can have your MRP engine run a couple of times a day or in the middle of the night once a week on a schedule, so that that will help analyze what your material requirements are, and then using the MRP display screen, you can decide what to do about your various shortages that you need to address. So taking a look at this screen here, this is all of the items that have shortages of some sort. And having a look here, we can filter by whether things are purchased items or manufactured items. You'll notice there are a couple of different sources for acquiring materials for production. But if we take a look at just the items that we need to purchase, using again just the native ability of Acumatica of being able to sort and filter from any given screen, we can zero in on just the items that we need to purchase. And if we like, we can also zero in on just the items that we need to buy from a particular vendor. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that vendor. And in this particular case, we have all of the purchased items that we need to acquire. Only the ones from just this vendor. We could even narrow it down just by warehouse. And then from this point, I can choose to select all of the items on display here and then create a purchase order just that easily for all of these different items. In this particular case, I've got 4 different items, and they just all have different due dates. If you are a manufacturer that needs to consolidate purchasing and not have this detailed purchase order, you can do that. But for the purposes of a demonstration, we're just issuing 1 PO. So that's one way that you can use the MRP display to expedite the analysis of material requirements and also expedite the creation of purchase orders for any of the items in here that are manufactured. You can do the same thing by zeroing down on those and, pardon me, just turn those off. Zeroing down on just the manufactured items and then also create manufacturing orders or production orders in a similar manner. MRP will also help you analyze, if you have advanced planning and scheduling, it can help you analyze your capacity and manage your capacity for manufacturing at various work centers. There's lots and lots and lots that we can do, and I won't go into all of that detail right now today, but we'll be happy to show you that another time if you would like to see more about that tailored for just your organization. So with that, I think we kind of used up our production or our demonstration time, and I guess I will throw it back to John to see if there are any questions or open it up to any of the attendees to see if there are any questions.
Okay, Rebecca, we had one question and I've already answered it. It revolved around expense management, and we'll need to follow up with them to give them some more information. But other than that, I think we're going to wrap up, and thank you everyone for attending today.